Good afternoon, Marines. My name is Staff Sergeant Weeks, and today we will be going over the M27 Infantry Automatic Rifle, or IAR. This is not only a semi-automatic rifle, it is an assault rifle as well, utilizing a free-floating barrel system. First, we will go over loading procedures. It's pretty much similar to the M16 and the M4. You have your standard magazine, 5.56. You make sure your weapon is on safe. You want to take your magazine, insert magazine, and then when magazine is fully inserted, rack to the rear. It shows that there's no rounds inside, and what you would like to do is press the magazine release, remove the magazine, ensure there's no rounds stuck in the chamber, send bolt to the forward, and that is loading, unloading. Also, to clear the weapon, you have your weapon back on safe. What you'd like to do is pull the charging handle to the rear, lock the bolt to the rear, charging handle forward, ensure there's no rounds inside the chamber, clear, back forward. That is unloading, loading, and clearing. I will now go over field strip for the M27 IAR. First, take off the bipod. There's a clip. You pull the clip back, and you just flip the clip all the way around, and then wiggle the bipod right off. Then I will separate the upper and lower receiver. I will start with the lower receiver. Extend the buttstock with the button all the way back, and then you're going to pull up on the clip and then remove the entire buttstock. Now, I'll take a punch and push down on the button in front of the buffer, and I will remove the buffer and mainspring. The lower receiver is complete for field strip. Now I will begin with the upper. Pull the charging handle to the rear, remove the bolt, charging handle. Now for the upper receiver, I have to remove the rails. In order to do that, I can utilize my bolt teeth, and then I can start unscrewing the screw. Then I can hand unscrew it. And once I unscrew it all the way, I can pull it out, separate the rails. Now I will pull back on the drive rod, and then pull the piston all the way out. Lastly, I'll take apart the bolt. Take the firing pin retaining pin. Firing pin will drop back. Lift up on the firing pin safety lever. Firing pin drops down with the spring. Turn the cam, remove the cam, remove the bolt. Now to take the bolt apart, I'll take the extractor out. So I'll push in on the pin. If the firing pin doesn't push it all the way out, I will get a thinner punch the pin all the way out. Remove the extractor and the spring. And that is field strip for the M27 IAR. I'll now reassemble M27 IAR from field strip. I'll start with the bolt. I'll take the extractor, place the spring in the extractor, grab the bolt. Ensure that when you place the extractor into the bolt that there's tension. Push down, line up the holes, and the pin should go in, centered. Now, I'll take my bolt housing, place the bolt in, grab my cam, place the block up and down, turn the block forward, extend the bolt, take my firing pin and spring, feed my firing pin and spring in, and pass the firing pin safety lever, and now I'll gently push my firing pin retaining pin in. Next, I'll take my charging handle, just like an M4, M16, place it in the inside, push halfway, feed the bolt all the way in. Take my piston, place my piston in first, and now for the drive rod, the spring end is going to go up towards the top of the barrel. So we have to feed this cutout side on the inside of the barrel. I'll press down, place the drive rod into the piston, grab my rails, cutout, lines up with the cutout of the rails. So I place my free floating rail system all the way on, push the pin in, tighten the pin all the way down. If you don't have a flathead to tighten it, you can just utilize the teeth of the bolt, like I said before. Tighten it down. Bolt inside. Main spring goes into the lower stock. Grab your buffer, feed the buffer all the way in. From here, grab the buttstock, pull up on the buttstock pin, and then collapse the buttstock all the way down. Remove the front and back pins. Place the entire upper. Drop down the pins. Now lastly, bipod, line up the rails, collapse the switch, and then press the button on the switch. That is reassembly of field strip for the M27 IAR. This is the detailed disassembly of the lower receiver for the M27 IAR. First, I'm going to collapse the whole buttstock, and I'll pull up on the pin and then remove the entire buttstock. Then I'll take a punch, flat punch, and I'll push in to get the buffer out. Now I can take the buffer and spring. Next, I will take the magazine release. To get the magazine release out, I'll take a flat punch. I'll push in on the magazine release from this side, and I'll unscrew to the left. Spring, magazine release. Next, I'll take the bolt catch off. I'll get a roll pin and a hammer, and I'll hammer the pin all the way out. Pin, gently remove. Bolt catch, and then detent and spring. From here, I will remove the insides. To do that, I will put it on fire, fire the hammer, and I will take a punch thin enough to push these two pins out. Ensure that you hold the hammer in place when you're punching the hammer out. Push the pin from left to right. Take out the hammer, spring. Pin. And now I'll take out the trigger. Push the pin in, gently remove. Disconnector. Same spring, same pin, I apologize, for the trigger as well. And I will dump the trigger out. And then separate the spring from the trigger. From here, I have to remove the sear. Use a punch, push out on the pin. For this, utilize a flat punch. Push all the way through. Sear. Pin. Now, we will remove the stock. In order to do this, I have to use my block. I have to position my block inside of a vise. I will take the lower receiver, place it in the block, and then I will utilize my combination wrench to untighten the nut in the back with this detent on the combination wrench. Place in. I will unscrew to the left. Once it is untightened, I will hold this plate in place and I will gently unscrew the nut all the way back. Then I'll remove the plate towards the back, and then I can slowly unscrew the stock. Slide the plate, unscrew the nut all the way. Place the stock down. We'll now remove the back pin spring and detent. And then you can remove the back pin. From here, we will remove the front pin. Push the front pin all the way out. Then utilizing a punch small enough to fit in this hole, we will push in. Be careful of the spring tension for the detent. Front pin, detent, spring. From here, we have to get. We will now reassemble the lower receiver for the M27 IAR. We will start with the safety. We will get one of the safety sides inserted and then insert the pin as well from the top. And we'll use a punch to get the pin all the way in. Once we have it in, we will take the lower and then we will feed the safety in, and then we will work on the other side of the safety. Insert the other side of the safety, pin, hold the pin in place. Utilize punch to hammer the pin flush into the safety. Once the safety is inserted correctly, we will work on safety detent and then the handle. Drop the screw in from the bottom. From here, we will place the spring into the handle, place the safety detent in, insert the handle with the spring up into the detent, grab your flathead and screw the handle all the way down. Handle's in, make sure there's tension on the safety. Now we can place the bottom in. Use the flathead to turn the bottom all the way to the right. From here, we'll put the front pin in. Drop the spring in. Drop the detent in. From here, we just press down, feed the front pin in, and there should be spring tension. Now we have to place the stock back in and the back pin. Place the back pin in, lining up the cutout towards the back. We're going to take the detent, drop the detent in, and make sure it catches the back pin. From here, I can feel that it caught. I'm going to place my spring into the back. From here, grab my block, place it in my vise. I will take the lower receiver, place it in the vise. Now once I have my stock, take the nut with the large cutouts towards the back of the stock. You're going to screw the nut all the way on. Now you take the plate with the detent towards the lower receiver, slide it into the stock. From here, you take the whole stock and you gently turn it into the receiver. And you're going to wait for it to stop. Once it stops, you're going to back it, line up the cutout for the plate, and then you're going to gently push the plate back into the spring for the back pin. Make sure it sits flush. From here, I will turn the nut all the way into the lower, and then I will tighten it down with my combination wrench. Take the lower off, and I will ensure the cutouts of the nut match the cutouts of the plate when I tighten it down. From here, we will get the sear in. When you place the sear in, you have to take this spring and you have to loop it around the bottom. And the sear will sit in the weapon this way. From here, that spring will go along the left side of the safety on the inside, and I'm going to just push the sear back. Now I'll take my pin, gently tap it into the receiver, line up the other holes, make sure it's flush on each side. Now I'll place the trigger in. To put the trigger spring on, loop the one side, and it will sit in just like this. I will drop the trigger straight down the middle, and then I'm going to use my pin, the smooth side, from my left to right to start feeding into the trigger. I will not push it all the way through yet because I have to take the disconnector, place it in the middle. Once I have it in the middle, I will feed it down, work my spring through, and now I can place my pin all the way through. From here, I'll take my hammer and hammer spring, and I will hook my hammer spring onto either side of the hammer from the front, just like this. And from this angle, these two legs will sit on top of the trigger pins on the left and the right side. When I push this hammer down, I will feed this other pin in from my left with the smooth end. So I will push down. If you need help working it in, just tap it with a hammer. And if I get my pin started, I can lock my hammer down, and then I can push my pin in the rest of the way. Line up the other side of the hammer. And the way you know you did it correctly for the hammer, you can flip it on safe or flip it on fire, fire, back on safe. From here, I'll place the magazine release. So first, the spring and detent drop into the side. Now, I'll take a punch and I'll push down and I'll force this punch through so I can get my pin started on the other side. From this side, I'll take my flat punch and I will hammer this pin in, ensuring that the magazine release stays in place. Ensure that it works. Now I will take my magazine release, spring goes in, and you're going to feed this through this side, and you will push down on the button. Push all the way in, and then you will start turning, not left to right, but right to left. And make sure it catches. I'm utilizing a punch to help me turn it all the way flush. Once it's flush, you can now take the mainspring and the buffer, feed it all the way in. Take the buttstock, release the button for the buttstock, collapse all the way, and that is the reassembly of the lower receiver for the IAR. I will now go over detailed disassembly of the upper receiver of the M27 IAR. First, we'll take off the rails. You can utilize your bolt to loosen. Set the rails to the side. Now, pull the drive rod back, just like for field strip, piston. From here, we're going to use our block to first hammer out these two pins for the gas block, and then this one pin for the bayonet. Set the pins aside. Now we have to separate the barrel from the upper receiver. So we will utilize that with what's called the mandrel. We have to connect this to a vise. So we will take our upper receiver and inside of the chamber and align it with the teeth of the mandrel. We'll take the compensator off with the combination wrench with the large cutout, and then we'll take the nut that connects the upper barrel with the upper receiver and utilize the detent that we did for the lower. Twist the nut to the left. Take it out of the mandrel. Now we can unscrew the compensator. Bayonet attachment, gas block. Now we can unscrew the entire nut. And then separate the barrel from the upper receiver. From here, we can start by taking off the forward assist. We'll utilize our punch block to knock out this one pin. Be careful to hold in the forward assist while you take the punch out so it doesn't shoot across the room. Pin, spring, forward assist. Next, we'll take off the injection port cover. There's a small pin that you have to tap out first. So what I'll do is I'll take a small punch, roll pin, tap that pin out gently, or you'll lose it. Set this aside. Take my punch out. I will pull the rod out for the injection port cover. Be careful of the spring tension for the spring for the injection port cover. And that is all for the upper receiver for detailed disassembly. I'll now perform reassembly of the M27 IAR upper receiver. I will start with the injection port cover. The rod has a cutout, so what you would like to do is line up this cutout with this hole of the injection port cover. So when I place my injection port cover in, I will feed my rod in, and then I will grab my spring. The short end, the way I'm looking at the injection port or port cover is to my left. I will feed it in, and I will twist all the way around the spring. Once I get it twisted, I'm going to start feeding the rod all the way through the injection port cover. Once you know that there's spring tension, the way that I line up this hole for this pin is I look through light and I make sure that it's straight through and the cutout lines up. That's perfectly circled through that hole. I'll place my small pin in, gently tap, injection port cover is done. Now for the forward assist. Place the spring. The hook end is going to go in to the receiver. So you have to push the forward assist in and then start feeding the pin in and gently tap down. And once it stays, utilize a flat punch to get the pin all the way down. Ensure it works. From here, we are going to first attach the barrel to the upper receiver, and we will utilize the mandrel again. We will place the upper receiver into the mandrel, we'll take our nut and our barrel. This cutout right here for the upper receiver, we have to line up once we place the barrel in the mandrel. We will have to lift up the lower or the upper receiver and then drop the nut all the way on and tighten down. Once you get it in, you'll tighten down with the combination wrench. And what I do, you put the gas block on, you place the bayonet attachment on, and then you get the compensator on, and then tighten with the large end of the combination wrench, ensuring that the cutouts of the compensator are towards the sky. Remove from the mandrel. And from here, we will hammer in all of our pins. So first, we will hammer in our bayonet attachment. And then we will hammer in both pins for the gas block. These are one-time use pins, so when you're doing this, these need to be brand new when you put them in. Once in, we can take our piston, then our drive rod, and then cutout goes into cutout for the rails. Tighten down the screw. Utilize your bolt to tighten down. And that is the reassembly of the M27 upper receiver. I will now go over the functions check of the M27 IAR. The first thing you will do is make sure your weapon's on safe and you'll clear your weapon. Pull your charging handle all the way to the rear so the bolt extracts. Now make sure there's no rounds in the chamber or inside. From here, I will attempt to fire while the weapon is on safe. Weapon does not fire. Now I'll flip my weapon on semi-automatic, fire the weapon while holding the trigger to the rear. Once I hear the hammer fall, I will pull the charging handle down. Now I'll let my finger go and make sure I hear an audible click. Once I hear the audible click, I will attempt to fire again. Now, from here, pull the bolt to the rear, flip the weapon on automatic. Now I will pull the hammer to the rear, make sure the hammer falls, pull the charging handle while maintaining your finger down. Now try to release my finger, you should hear no audible click. Place weapon back on safe. That is the function check of the M27 IAR.